Greg Nelson had the idea first of having a roast for Evan Stone. So he and Diane planned a special event at the Fairmont Grand Del Mar for PMB partners, associates, family, and friends. It began in the Burgundy Room with wine and appetizers. The wine showed up, but the appetizers didn't.
Yeah, I can feel it.
It's actually we're gonna put it.
After the first
It's supposed to be Canada or we can fake
sales This is like this little, you'll be inspired.
Anybody that waves gets cut in editing.
Okay, good plan.
After dinner, the speeches began.
Thank you all for making the effort to come tonight. It's great. Dulcie and Nancy, it's great to see you guys. I'm glad you came.
We're thrilled to be here, and we're going to keep our mouths shut.
That's what this is for. As you guys all know, this evening is about one man. And, realizing how extremely shy, and tiring, and someone who likes to avoid being attention that Evan is, and we figured we try to make it something special, create a setting that worked. And I think this is a great setting.
All right, well, thank you for your words.
So, the serious part, I'm just going to the serious part. I'm going to read this, by the way, as one of your favorite politicians says, I need a prompter or something like that. You've touched our lives in so many ways, Evan, over the years that it's crazy to let any more time pass without letting you know how we all feel. You're obviously facing some serious challenges right now. It's not about those challenges, it's about you and all of us. And how what you mean to us, and in all fairness, I think I better get back to my notes. So I first met you in the 90s. PMB's been around for a long time. You were outhouse counsel at that point, and then greenhouse counsel. And during that project, very shortly after that, we started the process of buying and selling medical buildings. And as a result of that, I spent, I can't tell you how many hours in Evan's office. Hundreds of meetings, literally hundreds of meetings, thousands of hours.
Yeah.
You bet you agree. Yeah. You get to know somebody pretty well through that whole process. We've been doing it off and on now for 15 years, and all of the partners here from time to time have the same experience. Mark recently in the last 6 months, in-depth time with Evan over the San Francisco issues. So the process is interesting because Evan has a very unique skill set, an extremely bright individual, and that skill set allows us all to function in real time, if you will. Sit through the document works, whether it's purchase and sale or development agreements or whatever we do with the hospitals. They're very complicated. And we can all sit with Evan at his computer, and those things are created as we talk. And I know a lot of attorneys, but I don't know any attorney that has that skill set. And it's made this company do this today. We can get through issues quickly. It's terrific. So where's the roast, right? Yeah. So, as we sit through these meetings, invariably at the beginning, whether there's a break or just maybe just a thought, there's what I like to call an Evan diversion. And those diversions happen somewhat frequently. And in the process of doing that, whether it's, like I say, whether it's a break or whatever, it's a range of topics. Evan is as well read as any human being I know. I've seen how many photos of all of your vacations. Family, European trips. I've never known anybody to take so many pictures of sunsets in my whole life. Most of the time, Evan, in all fairness, they're interesting. The sunsets.
47.5% of the time.
We occasionally get exposed to your love of history, which is always nice. We get exposed to your political views, which sometimes is nice. It's really terrific. Another thing that happens a lot, maybe a little more for you than 99% of anybody else I've ever met, is we get these Amazon boxes. They're always for Evan. And they're filled with cowboy hats, shoes,
Tommy John underwear.
most recently, this underwear, multi-colored, seriously, I got a picture of Sherry. But Sherry, I got a picture of Sherry holding up this perfect set of underwear. And by the way, he doesn't wear the... So, that's always a lot of fun, but it really is enjoyable. And in all candor, the time we spend with you is extremely enjoyable. It's always instructive. And it's never, ever boring. Not ever for a minute. If I had an Evan meter, I don't know what an Evan meter is, but we could create one actually. An Evan meter, and I would rate certain things about you. For example, is he the kind of person that you guys like to have a beer? Of course. Is he the kind of you like to challenge historical events with? Absolutely. Check. Would you take him to a beer fight or a fist fight? No, maybe. Not a little bad. Would I ask him for political advice? All in all, the meter is wonderful. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed working with you, and look forward to working with you, and how much you mean to me. Diane, he's helped me personally a lot. Listens to a lot of bullshit from me that he doesn't have to. Given me a lot of great advice over the years. So thank you for all of that. At this point, I'm going to turn the time over to Dr. Rush. And we've got 13 speakers, including himself. So take as much time as you need. I don't think any of us are in a hurry at this point.
Good, then I'll pull out speech number 4.
So come on up, Jeff. Johnny?
Yes, look.
I wasn't supposed to be here tonight. Jeff was supposed to do this. And after sitting with you this afternoon, I couldn't resist. And you can blame me, I was the one who told him to take notes about everybody's so that he could get back. All right, I take the blame. All right, we were traveling together in Italy. And we were all concerned for you and your health, right? I was the designated driver. You were the self-appointed navigator with your device.
Except for one time.
We'll get there. We did great. We really did great. Evan got us every place we needed to go. Until the last leg of the trip. You found a shortcut to a restaurant in the remote suburbs of Rome.
Yeah. It's built by
You
Romans.
directed us with very much certainty. There was no doubt in your mind that we were going there. We went up a very steep, one-lane, dirt and cobblestone road. It was an ancient Roman road, we find out.
Trust me.
And we were in complete darkness, and the temperature was dropping. After 40 minutes, as the designated driver, with a stick shift, creeping up this road, and Evan saying, just keep going, just keep going. I was avoiding potholes and also falling off the side of the road. But
I was comfortable in the back.
see how quickly we forget. Okay, against your wishes, we decided to turn back, but there was no way to turn back. We couldn't make a U-turn. The road was no wider than this table. Okay, I threw the car in reverse. It was a stick shift, as you recall. And Jeff got out of the car, was in the front, headlights shining on him, directing me in reverse how to get down this road that we had spent 45 was skin. He was in a t-shirt, and Evan's saying,
Jeff's giving directions. That's the funny part.
Evan's saying, if you would just listen to me and keep going, we'd get there. Right. Okay, we're back to modern civilization, and you still insisted that we should have gone. Okay, Jeff, take it from there, because
So the moral of the story is,
anymore.
after an hour in low 30-degree weather in a t-shirt, Evan did great. We got on the plane the next day. I got back to California, got sick, and was sick for 5 weeks with heart and lung problems from that thing. He did great. And he said, God, I'm sorry you're sick. Anyhow, that's just one instance, but I'd like to talk about something else. First of all, I'd like to thank Jed Weinberg. I'd like to thank Jed Weinberg for turning down the offer to come to PMB. Otherwise, I wouldn't know my little brother. A lot of you know that I had an older brother, about 7 or 8 years older than me, who was very stylish and helped us get PMB started. And when my brother bought a new sport coat, I had to have that sport coat. A new watch, I had to have that sport coat. A new car, God, why can't I get a car like that? And I never had a younger brother. However, I inherited one. So I would get a new jacket. He said, where'd you get that jacket? I gotta get one of those. I gotta get a new watch. I got a Tesla. He's already on the internet. Instead of working, he's on the internet looking for a Tesla. Forget about your Tesla, Bob. It had to do with me. Evan, I had about 10 things that Evan had envy of. Except the 11th thing he didn't have envy of, right, John? Think. Envy. What comes before envy? What comes before envy? Huh? Penis envy. But other than that, Evan and I have had, we've had a relationship, and I think if Jill looks in Evan's closet, half the clothes are mine. Evan says to me, get fat, buy a suit, and then lose weight. We go to Italy, it's the shoes. Jeff, those are Gucci's, I gotta have those. You can't have that, they're your size, but I gotta have them.
They didn't fit you, okay.
In any event, beyond the roast, it's my little brother, not little, but younger brother that I never had. And it's a special relationship we've developed, even silently, not out there, but silently kind of, you know? It's kind of like, he's taught me so much, and I think I've, you know, bonded with him dramatically. And again, I would like to make a call to Jed Weinberg and thank him for not taking the job many, many years ago, because it never would have been the fucking same.
Although, not the first time I was supposed to meet Evan, it was a job interview. And
It's great.
it was a great
It was
interview.
great.
It was really good. I showed up, I was working at a law firm downtown, and I showed up at Evan's office for this job interview, and Evan never showed up. I was like, really?
It's good for me.
It was... Anyway, it gave me a little insight on what was to come. You know? A lot of you know how it is going to Evan's office and coming to me and saying, what time is Evan going to be here? You talk to Evan? Well, I have a 9 o'clock appointment and it's 9:30. Yeah. Anyway, some of you don't know that I used to be a big runner, and I used to run at lunchtime.
Oh, right.
I used to run at lunchtime, and Evan and I used to run at lunchtime. And I kind of got the feeling after a while that he was more like a big brother, like, where's Jeff? You had a little brother? Well, I had this big brother. We'd be running along, and he'd be soaking with sweat, and he'd wipe his hand on his forehead or his nose, and then wipe it on me. You did it!
You never did, though.
I didn't!
Oh,
I would not ever do that.
okay, fair enough.
Anyway, when I was working with him at Claudia and Pressman, we had this banter that always went back and forth, and some of our workmates called us Ricky and Lucy. And it was pretty appropriate, I think. And then after I worked for him for almost 4 years, which is my limit on how many years I can work for a certain person, any one person at any given time, I decided that I already had a big brother that abused me so, and I moved on and I worked for Jed Weinberg. And I actually did some work for Pacific Medical Buildings as well through Jed Weinberg. And after that run was up, Evan convinced me to come back to work for him at Pacific Medical Buildings, which I did. And during that time, I spent a lot of time in his office, and we've had a lot of discussions, and we've looked at a lot of different pairs of underwear.
Does he show you how that fly works?
I've seen the flies. And that's the thing I don't understand, because those flies are up and down. Well, this fly, it's like this little pocket, and you have to pull it up this way. Seriously, Tommy John. I don't remember.
Anybody want to see his
She's probably pretty right now. Anyway, it's gonna be just funny this. Anyway, I did decide after a long period of time has gone by that I really do need that big brother. And I love that big brother. Stony.
Hello.
Hello.
All right, so, hey, how are you, Joe? So I've been working at PMB for 5 years, and so when I was asked to speak tonight, it was a little more difficult probably for me to come up with some topics of conversation. I don't have quite the experience some of you guys do. I know some of you have known him for, 10, 20, 80 years. So I was trying to think of, something to say interesting. When I was thinking about how long all of you have known him, I was like, how long do I have to know this guy until something interesting happens? So if you know me very well, and all of you know Evan well, there's really no topic that is off limits. I mean, no matter how crude, how politically incorrect, it doesn't matter, we'll cover it. And in fact, the other day, the topic of our conversation was kind of the evolution and the shaping and everything that happens to my wife's boobs during pregnancy.
That can't be true.
No way, Jessica, you would never do that. Don't believe it.
In all seriousness, we work on a lot of really, really boring documents. Evan makes them very interesting. We have a lot of fun.
Interesting.
And so I've enjoyed the shift to come over to PMB and working with Evan has been fantastic. I worked with him a little bit as his tax advisor for a while. And getting to know Evan has been great. And as me and my wife are starting a family and seeing him and Jill and talk about his kids, like we strive to create a family like you've created. So it's been a great run, and we still got some great time together.
When people get old, I mean really old, like me, Sandy, Dulcie,
Thank you.
the conversation tends to predominantly be stories about the past. So I'm not going to break that tradition tonight. It was early in 1985, 31 years ago. I was selected to design a medical office building in Spring Valley for a group of doctors headed by Bob Libbitz. There was also a radiologist named Rush who was in part of the ownership group. And the architectural agreement was negotiated by Lippitz's attorney, Evan Stone, who was practicing at that time as Hyatt and Stone in an office in La Costa. I immediately realized that this attorney was different from anyone that I have ever met before. First of all,
right away, right?
he didn't talk about underwear. But he did, my experience with other attorneys has been when you meet with them, they would pull out a large yellow legal pad and would start taking copious notes as you explained your problem and the agreement that you wanted. And at the end of the meeting, they would say, great, let's make an appointment in a week and I have a draft for you. Well, Evan was very different. While you're talking to Evan, he was working on the computer. I didn't exactly know what he was doing, but he was on the computer. At the end of the meeting, he came up with a signable document, which was very different. Was quite amazing. I was also impressed with the efficient way that he negotiated this agreement. And after the building was completed, I asked Evan if he would be my personal attorney, which he did. Yes, he did.
Oh.
Moving ahead 3 years later, in 1988, Evan and I were locked into a hotel room for 2 days at the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, negotiating with American Medical Buildings the purchase of their West Coast office, which later became Pacific Medical Buildings. By that time, Evan had moved to the Carmel Valley office of Kolodny and Pressman. And for the next 12 years, Evan did virtually all of the legal work for Pacific Medical Buildings. A little bit was done by Jed Weinberg, I think. So during this period, I constantly invited him to join PMB as House Counsel. Finally, after 12 years, in January 2000, I prevailed, and Evan moved to Pacific Medical Buildings as a senior VP for legal services, and has been here ever since. Evan and I, along with Jim Rowan, are interested in words and language. We spent many hours arguing about the definition of words and phrases. And to this day, Evan has still not come around to agreeing with me that close proximity is incorrect and redundant. But you'll get there one of these days. So meanwhile, while he's getting there, let's raise our glasses to the smartest, the most interesting, the most clever,
Closest proximity.
most courageous wordsmith I have ever met.
I'm one of the few women up here tonight. So there's things I want to sing, and then things I will sing, so that I can keep my grace and position within the company. I'm going to be inappropriate because we've talked a lot about boobs. And when I'm 72 and have some left, I'm going to tell you that it's because this man right here has talked to me about the importance of a good running bra. I swore I wouldn't talk about that, but thank you. It's mechanics. It wasn't anything inappropriate, it's mechanics. And the reason he knows that that's important to me is because we used to see each other Sunday mornings working on terrible projects. And, or he'd be doing one by the alarm, and I'd always pray that he'd be there so I didn't have to remember my code. I still don't know it. So, thankfully, those horrendous long weekends and long meetings have ended. There's one thing that always went on in our long meetings, and those of you who've been in those long meetings are going to know what I'm talking about. And that is, we all drag in, we all have our pen and paper, and we're ready to talk and update. And Evan walks in with the brand new, whatever they just talked about, Apple product, MacBook Air, that you can lift with a finger. And he opens it up and starts to work. And while we're all sitting there like, oh my God, he's smirking and laughing and having the best time ever. It's clear something's going on there. Okay, so a few times I've peeked around the corner and I've seen little chat boxes and I think, oh, how lovely, he's chatting across the miles with his children. He's texting. No. In fact, I spoke to Peter Pop. I know what's been going on. So I want to read to you just a recent sampling of what's going on Evan's alternate ego while we're meeting. You think he's typing? Okay, no. Here we go. First, I mean, we were in a development meeting last week. Here's what was going on last week. Amazon.com, Tesla replacement windows, vacation rentals in Italy, airfare to New York, and then 3 different websites for expensive, fancy, purified water delivery service. Okay, all this is totally predictable. Nobody's shocked by this. So we kept going. I said, hey, let's look at, shopping. Natural, subtle hair color for men at CVS.com.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
This one was familiar to me. What's my wonder undersize at www.lululemon.com. Then recently, and Peter was alarmed, some GoFundMe page called MakeAmericaGreatAgain.com. And he did check the box for, yeah, I want the hat. So then we went into Google searches, And really, Evan, how tall is Tom Cruise really?
Always wondered.
Then the other one, this is helpful, and I need to ask this question, so let's talk later. Do Snapchat pictures really go away forever? What are the washing instructions for my new Wonder Enders? And then searching for pictures of Tom Selleck without that mustache. That was on the top of the list. So as I run it up, we can't forget the blogs that he visits. Cats of Instagram, The Pioneer Woman, Bread Cats, cats wearing bread, Hungover Owls, and every day, the Garrison Keillor blog. And that's where we stop. Because when we start talking about Garrison Keillor, I remember why I love working at PMB, why I love working with these people. Because there's a few gems who know the right and true and good in the world, and this man's one of them. So any man who likes a man wearing red tennis shoes is my favorite kind of man. Thank you very much.
The first thing we learned about Evan tonight is that he can make anything interesting by shifting the conversation to booze. So when Greg first asked me about doing something like this for Evan, I thought it was a great idea, but I did have one concern. Evan was recognized a couple years ago at a wonderful Foundation Fighting Blindness event, and I thought with all of us getting up here and saying more great things about Evan, that he might get a big head. So I checked with Sherry, and she assured me that his head is already huge, and there's no possibility of it getting any bigger. Almost, I had it in there. I took it out. Sherry did, however, wonder why this event wasn't being held for her. Sherry is the president of the legal department, and after all, Evan works for Sherry. So one of Evan's brilliant qualities is his relentless pursuit of efficiency and productivity through wordsmithing. This relentless pursuit has led him to mercilessly slash entire phrases from his documents. For example, including, but not limited to, is shortened to just including. After all, you don't have to say but not limited to, because including doesn't imply any limitations at all. And this one step utterly destroys 4 reprehensible and pointless words. In the event is shortened to just if. In fact, if you type in the event in Evan's computer, autocorrect changes it to if. This eradicates 2 appalling, graceful, and superfluous words. Whether or not becomes just whether. Eliminate another 2 dastardly words. Perhaps Evan's most nuanced... Yeah, that's right. Perhaps Evan's most nuanced achievement in this regard is the use of on rather than upon, wiping out a hypercritical 2 letters each and every time it's used. It is this revolutionary use of these advanced techniques that causes PMB productivity to soar. The byproduct of our soaring productivity is that this allows time for rumination. Rumination is defined as deep and considered thought. No work session with Evan would be complete without rumination. Rumination on politics, economics, current events, sports, history, and a sprinkling of our personal lives are frequently part of a work session with Evan.
What about booze?
I said that at the beginning. So I'm pretty sure that where Evan and I stand on politics, and I think I've got this right, is here. After many years of calm, sensible, and reasonable persuasion,
I have convinced Evan to become a center-right Republican. His only conundrum right now is whether to support Trump or Cruz. I got that right?
Yeah.
And likewise, Evan, after years of hysterical, irrational ranting, has convinced me that the mainstream press is both fair and balanced. Evan is a man of unmatched integrity. A fantastic example of this is the fact that every single time he's playing solitaire while consulting with a client, he reduces his bill. Every single time. Now that's integrity. Every single time. Evan also is a tireless enforcer of company policy. For example, when we had our Christmas party at the Belly Up Tavern and we were concerned about excessive drinking by our employees, it was Evan and Greg who were standing at the exit doing shots with our young people as their Now that's policy enforcement. Okay, but seriously, so when, recently we've been talking to attorneys, and one of the things that has really struck me is every time that Evan is talking about coming to work at PMB, he always says, you're joining a family is more a family than a job. And that's, really, really, really true. We spend probably more time with each other than we do with our own families. And it's really been, a privilege to work with you for the past 27 years. I often say how important you are to our repeat clientele and our reputation, how much our clients like you, your collegial attitude, and so forth. And you have been a huge part of PMB's reputation and our ability and our success. And then, your grace and your positive attitude through your illness has been an inspiration. I want to thank you for being a great attorney, a great partner, but most of all, a great friend.
Evan,
Greg.
I think I need to apologize to the group. I think I misunderstood the purpose of tonight. I thought we were having roast. Anyway, like Ben, I'm relatively new. I've been here close to 5 years. I didn't meet you during the interview process. I mean, had I met you, I may not have taken the job. I usually insist on being the funniest, most charming, and brightest member of the team. Anyway, I got to know you. You have all the qualities that you would want to have in a great company attorney. You've got great judgment, you've got intelligence, you've got perspective, you've got a great sense of humor. All of that we appreciate. And when I needed your help, you were always there for me. For example, I needed referrals. There's been 4 referrals. 3 I like, 1 I'm not so sure. The first referral, my daughter's prenup. I mean, that was important. Right on the money. The second referral, an attorney to help my son-in-law with his greedy dad work out a new LLC. That worked out really well. The third referral, right on the money. My youngest son's divorce attorney. Worked out great. No problem. However, that Northwest Mutual guy, Scott, and his brother Steve.
Just sold you 4 policies?
Oh my God, Evan, what did you do to me?
I had no idea you'd be so easy.
Seriously, no, seriously. Evan, it's been a pleasure. Okay, I love working with you. I mean, on behalf of all the rest team, thank you.
So everybody covered so much. I feel like I'm just left with the crumbs here, but I'll give it a whirl. You're a brilliant attorney, an exquisite wordsmith, and truly the heart of PMB. You are the glue. You are the one who goes chasing after Mark after he yells at you for interrupting him for the 8th time. Slams his door, goes into his office and pouts for a while. Sorry, Mark. And then Evan walks out.
It only happened once.
Evan walks out, makes a face like, oh, that happened, and then follows Mark into his office. I enjoyed it. Sure, we really got a laugh out of it. It was fun. So, and then they kissed and made up, and it was all good. So, but you do have a few quirks, and I know some people have touched on some of the quirks. And, you know, one of them has to be the Tommy John undies, because seriously, those are just fabulous. I really enjoyed those. And I love the fact that you were able to demo them for me. Yeah, and the colors. I really enjoyed the colors. Yeah, you know. And I may have stolen some of your boxes after you've taken stuff out of them, because I needed them. Yeah, and your silly Aussie, you know, cowboy hats. I don't even know what those are. They're scary.
They're hats.
They're scary. They're scary. The big clunky watches, you know, just like Jeff, because you gotta be like your big pro. It's gotta, you know, Jeff gets a new watch, he's, you know, check out my new watch. And Evan's like, oh, I gotta look it up. Let me see if I can find that one. Yeah. And then your hand-me-down sweaters from Jeff. I really enjoyed those. He always gets a new hand-me-down sweater. Steve, help me out here. Yeah. Hand-me-downs. Yeah, Jeff. Jeff is populating the table as we go. Yeah. Yeah. That's okay. I've gotten a few of Lonnie's stuff too. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah. Your Jeff sweaters. I like that. And the random Google tangents. That's what I like to call them. You know, Mark touched on this, but absolutely every 5 minutes there's a random Google tangent, and it's fabulous. I don't remember what we were doing. I think it was an operating agreement or something, but all of a sudden we're looking up date trees and where they grow. And it was really informative. So, I mean, yeah, I walk out learning so much. Yeah. The king of autocorrect. No, sweetheart, you take it to a new level. You really do. Yeah, I've actually buzzed you and asked for a few combinations of what you do on things. And the root level server police, that would be you as well. On our server, if anyone puts anything on the root level, oh yeah, it gets zapped and put into a folder that says this does not belong at the root level. That would be the name of the folder. I love that. But there is one problem with you. Only one. For some reason, you're constantly kicking me out of your office. And I can't figure this out. I am so fun to be around. I don't understand. Why is it, are you...
Just ask Anita.
Why is it you're constantly kicking me out of your office? You know, I have it figured out though. I thought about, yeah, too much, yeah. I thought about it, and I've actually snuck back to see what you were doing after you kicked me out, and I do believe that you are in a solitary league. And you just wanted me to get the hell out of your office so you can finish your solitaire game. It's pretty much how you roll.
That's true. But he does discount his bills.
So this one time, Evan put a bill together, and he dropped it off in my office, and I was a little displeased with the bill. This would be the only time Evan and I have ever fought, because we never fight, ever. So he drops the bill off, and I take one look at the bill, and my jaw drops. I said, "You've got to be kidding! He did not charge that." I'm like, "Who are you, Ragnary? This is not okay. You cannot do this." So I took that bill in my hand. I walked right into his office, and I slammed that bill on the desk, and I said, "What is this crap?" And he says, "Can you get out of my office? I'm in a meeting." Yet again, I'm being kicked out of offices. It's okay. So when I go back over, Sherry comes into my office and she says, "You know, Kenny, I'm gonna be honest here. You know, I would tell you if you're right, but you're wrong. And Evan may have overcharged you, but you probably shouldn't have gone in there and slammed it on his desk." I said, "Yeah, all right." I thought about it. And I said, "You know." All right, so I go back in there, and I said, "Evan, you know, I'm sorry I slammed the bill on your desk. Could you take $100 off? That would be nice." It was something like that. You remember that?
No,
Mm-hmm.
go ahead.
And you said, okay. You said, like, all right, well, tell me why you think I should take $100 off. And I said, well, I'm very emotional about this bill. You couldn't have spent this much time on it. This is ridiculous. And by the way, I'm on my period, so I'm having a really bad day. And he took $100 off and we were best friends the next day. So if you ever want to get out of anything with Evan, there's the trick. So, I love you. You're wonderful. Stop kicking me out of your office.
You have to have props for this as well. No, that's a good prop. It's Michigan, in case you can't see it in the back of the room. So. You know, when you're the 42nd speaker, it's a little difficult to become original. The only saving grace I have is I've seen how much you all have been drinking this evening, so no one will remember this anyway. So. Evan, it's been my pleasure to work with you for over 15 years. You're smart, you're ethical, hardworking, accessible, and a Michigan alum. All of that's good stuff. I've seen you in the office on more Saturdays than I'd like to count. I've always thought Pacific Medical was very smart to bring Evan in. I'm lucky to have him representing their real estate transactions and overseeing their legal issues. However, there is one area that concerns me. And due to its sensitivity, I'm a little reluctant to bring it up, but after the conversation tonight, I don't need to be reluctant. It's an area of labor law that has become, appropriately, it's received a lot more attention recently. But it's an area that I'm afraid that Evan has failed miserably. And of course, I'm speaking of sexual harassment. I'm sure it'll come as a great surprise to Jill. Occasionally, Evan can be just a touch, Jill.
Just a touch.
Off color. The truth be known, if anyone at Pacific is going to be charged with sexual harassment, my bet is on Evan. His office is often filled with a number of young women who are laughing loudly and without a bit of shame. He's entertaining them, not as explicitly as his namesake Evan Stone, the movie star, but no less enjoyable. But I'm sorry to divert from my task of honoring Mr. Stone. Time and again, I've been impressed with Evan's ability to take complicated legal documents from a wordy lawyer and simplify the language to be concise and understandable. It's no small task. In fact, I think Evan is one of the best, and it's been mentioned here already, one of his best skills is his ability with the English language and his ability to use it so effectively. I've always enjoyed reviewing documents in Evan's office, and this has been talked about already. Evan would put those documents on the screen. Of course, it's a screen you could view easily from Debbie's desk at the reception. And would quickly hone in on the key points and wordsmith the document into something that was understandable and favorable for Pacific. Oh yeah, speaking of those sessions, there was a time before Evan got a screen that was the size of an 18-wheel trailer truck that I thought I was going to have to say something to Jill and Diane, actually. Shortly after I moved into Pacific in 2002, Pacific started a transaction with CHW, Catholic Healthcare West. This was the acquisition of 22 medical office buildings, and it was a major undertaking for Pacific at the time. And as I mentioned, at that time, Evan's screen wasn't quite so big, And, well, I actually became very concerned for Jill and Diane, because both of their husbands were spending an inordinate amount of time, nights, days, weekends, behind closed doors in Evan's office. And they were in there reviewing documents with their heads right next to each other as they were reviewing them. In fact, I frankly wasn't the only one in the office that was concerned about it. So,
Those were good days.
those were good. Jill, you are a saint.
Thank you.
Evan, it's an honor for me to be included in tonight's festivities. I have great respect for you and have thoroughly enjoyed working with you. And in particular, I need to say a thank you publicly for the enormous support, advice, and friendship that you gave me when I was battling the forces of darkness a few years ago. Thank you, Evan. We all love you, and will do.
I'd also like to thank Chad Weinberg. So for those of you who don't know me, which is probably no one, I'm Evan's nephew. Evan, I am very indebted to you for a lot of very obvious reasons. I'm thankful for the 6-week PMB internship that you arranged for me, and that it was able to be extended, and then extended some more, and then extended more for that. Until eventually earning the position of Chief Executive Intern, a title that I extended to myself. Most importantly, I'm thankful that I'm your nephew, through marriage. Thank you, Jill,
You're welcome.
Nancy, and Mima. I'm not saying that you're bad looking, but I do thank God every day that I look more like her than you. It's a miracle that Adam and Liz came out so good looking. All right, Evan, now I'm going to say something that you may not appreciate. But everyone's thinking it. Especially your 30-gallon hat maker. Your head is big. It's massive. It's gigantic. I read enough advisory board articles to know microcephaly, which is the neurodevelopmental disorder causing the abnormal largeness of the head. But I know it when I see it. Seriously, how do you keep it up? How do you balance that bowling ball? It's okay though, it's okay though, it's okay though. We know the real reason why your head is so very large is because it's filled with so much knowledge. From the rebounds per game that John Goldblum had during the Easton Jewish Community Center's magical 1957 season, which by all accounts, all of your accounts, was one of the greatest basketball teams ever assembled. To the countless books that you consume about history, psychology, science, philosophy, sports, you seem to be able to recall it all.
Some of it.
Some of it correct, but I don't know if to challenge you. It is what I'm calling your head, your cranium. It also allows you to be extremely wise and compassionate. I'm sure most people in this room can attest that they have at least once walked into your office with a comment about a lease or a deal document or something specific, and they've left an hour or two later with advice on their family, or learning of a current event, or maybe you leave developing a new perspective on something that you were once certain of, or hearing about Jill earmuffs. How awesome your perfect workout trainer's butt and arms are. However, I digress. But so do you. Most admirable to me is that even with a head so big, you don't have a big head about anything. You're humble, red Tesla aside, when you have so many reasons not to be. You continue to give back to your kids, your family, your friends, your community, to charity. Tangents and digressions aside, you're the most reliable person I know and a role model. Congratulations on so many years with PMB, and thank you for adopting me into your work family and your home. See you at the office tomorrow.
Well, as others have mentioned, last time, as you said, almost all the great things about Evan can be said. I'll try to think of a few more. I wasn't going to cover the boots or the hats. I was a little curious about that great big ball you keep under your desk and never seems to do anything. In trying to think of things I could say to roast you, I sort of struggled because, frankly, I can't think of all that many roastable elements. There are a lot of toastable elements. But I was thinking there is one thing I kind of wondered about, your choice of profession. The law is a confusing thing. And we've all discussed tonight, Bob and Mark have alluded to your passion for words and wordsmithing and clarity and simplification. One of the schools of law that I sort of associate with you is one that can be expressed when you come into our offices, and all of us who are signing partners of various documents, you present something with yellow stickies on it. And I know for my part, I don't know about the others, I have asked, well, Evan, what is this? And your response in that manner in which a lawyer counsels his clients is typically, just sign it. Okay, does it matter? Just sign it. It has sort of made me kind of wonder about the law. You know, we spend a lot of time in legal documents and all those things that constitute the kind of the underlayment of our business. You know, the word law is Norse. It comes from the Vikings. It means that which is laid down. So laying down a law is a redundancy from the very start. So in that struggle you have, you're kind of doomed from the outset. In the law you guide us in is real property law. I don't know if all of you know what real property is. It's not the difference between real and unreal. It's royal property. In France, the king owned the land and he owned the buildings, and it was royal. And when French law...
He didn't know any of this until he sat at my office. Sorry, go ahead.
I learned this from Evan when we were supposed to be doing it at LLC. So when Royal migrated across the channel to England, it became real. So real property isn't real. It isn't comparative with unreal. It is in fact just those things that a king might have owned many years ago. And that is the area in which Evan guides us. The French had another influence on our law. I don't know, from accounting, you work on accounts payable, and we work on court martials, and we work on a variety of things like fee simple leases. We don't say fee simple. We say simple fee and payable accounts. And my recommendation, and I know you're going to want to adopt this, is on our next set of documents, we're going to iron out those inverted references that come from the French. Are you with me on that? I think this makes a lot of sense. Although the British didn't do much to correct those inversions, we do have probably one of your favorite legal scholars, Sir Ernest Gowers, who in the early 20th century said that legal language is obscure in order that, do you believe it, it may be unambiguous. Now, if you can just understand the challenges, poor Evan, I don't know how he does it. I mean, it's amazing. And in fact, a test of a Flesch reading test, for those of you who understand the Flesch test of reading clarity, which is graded on a score of 0 to 100, graded a document of Gowers at a negative 130. It seems almost impossible that it could happen. You have always looked for, and have been, I think, generally speaking, successful in eliminating the in orders to and various other problems with our language. But there was another quote I think either from Gowers or one of the folks about at the same time, that all of this unnecessary language commands the reader's respect. Again, think about that. What kind of readers are we attending to? Or these readers must have been idiots. As you go through the documents for the here and afters and the heretofores and the overwhelming notwithstanding anything to the contrary, you can imagine you're trying for precision in a document you've read, worked terribly hard to get there, and you get up to a point where you say, notwithstanding anything to the contrary, which really means I really didn't get it all the way. In case I got it wrong. It is all that it gives us this wonderful sense of the law that it is, a warning on a fireplace log that it may cause fire, or a sleeping pill that it may cause drowsiness. It kind of makes you crazy. Or it could make you crazy unless you have a guide like you to keep us sober and straight and keep ourselves focused on where we need to be.
Just like yours,
Right after I'm done here. I think, although Ernest Gowers may be your second favorite legal historian, I know there is a legal team who probably illustrates one of the things I'm talking about here better than anyone, and that would be Groucho and Chico. When the Night at the Opera had, many of you may know this story, they were looking through a contract. Groucho began reading about the party. The first part, Chico objected, didn't like the sound of the party, the first part. And they went through all the parties all the way up to the party of the ninth part. When they rejected all of it, there was only one clause left, and Chico didn't like it, and Groucho said, well, that's normally, it says that if anybody in the document loses his right mind, the document is null and void. Chico hated that. And Groucho said, well, that's just standard boilerplate. It's called the sanity clause, and of course, Chico responded, there ain't no sanity clause. I think summarizes what really means the most to me. I consider you a great attorney. You have been, as everyone has said here, incredibly efficient in your work. You have guided us where we really needed it. You have eliminated tens of words from documents. And I have sometimes attempted to do the same thing you've done. I've taken a 50-page document and I've cut off well over half a page. Taking out the in-orders and so on. But thank you for all of your work. Thank you for so many things that all of the folks who have preceded me have thanked. Thank you for being a great friend. But I have one more thing, and I'm not Steve Jobs. But he sent me something to read, so this is going to be just a pure reading exercise. And this is Jake speaking from a distance. I was pretty upset when I found out I couldn't make it tonight. It's not every day that you get a chance to go to a 4-course dinner with people you see no more than 40 hours a week. It could be worse. It could be the Golden Globes or a bunch of people dress up and shower each other with pointless awards. At least the point of tonight is to make fun of Evan. Seriously though, the invite was so compelling, John and I had to make a fake trip to Seattle. Truth be told, we're sitting atop the Spaceman Needle right now on our 5th Moscow mule, soaking up the best 43-degree and overcast weather Seattle has to offer. And that's probably true, too. If the fake Seattle trip didn't work, I had a backup plan for a 7 p.m. Appointment tonight to get the air changed to my tires. I'm glad we didn't go there. That just wouldn't have felt right. Short of the 4-course meal, I honestly don't feel that bad about not being able to make it tonight to Evan's roast. I don't think there's a day that's gone by in the 11 years and 8 days that I've known Evan where I haven't heckled him about something. It doesn't take a formal event for many of the people here at this dinner to dig into Uncle Evan a little bit. If this isn't the first speech of the night, well, Jake really had no idea. But I'm sure you've heard about Evan's propensity for wandering conversation. It really isn't wandering, it's focused, it's just not on topic. I can't tell you how many times I've had what I thought was a very simple question or a very simple task, which for some of Evan's knowledge, I also can't tell you how very, very wrong I was about the simple part. There's no subject that's out of reach during a conversation that would certainly figured that out tonight. Literally, the guy could talk about anything on the face of the planet, an excruciating deal. Much of Evan's subject matter could arguably fall into the who the hell cares bucket. But if you ever got caught in a life or death situation where you needed to know something horribly irrelevant, all you had to do was put the most recent Evan Stone conversation. Speaking of who the hell cares, have you guys ever heard Evan's story about winning the high school basketball championship? In Bethlehem, Pennsylvania in 1966. So the first time I heard the story, I found it to be quite impressive. But by the 11th time, when all the facts were dislodged from me, I had to admit that winning a 6 foot and under co-ed basketball championship at the local JCC wasn't exactly extraordinary. As I recall, the team's claim to fame was that they played the championship game down the street from Lehigh University. On a serious note, Evan's an extraordinary person with whom we had the privilege of sharing a professional and personal relationship. It's not often that you can call a person a friend and a mentor. Evan's spirit and character drive our business, and he's one of the people that make our office so special. There's never a dull day with Evan, whether it's discussing history, politics, family life, grandchildren, skiing, sports, boogers, or anything in between. I really missed out on some of this. Yeah. Evan, there are many times where I could so perfectly steal one of your all-time greatest quotes. Evan, I heard what you said. I don't care what you said, but I heard what you said. Thank you for everything you've done for me professionally and more importantly personally. I look forward to many more years of memories. Oh, and one last thing. If you don't give me $50,000, I'm voting for Donald Trump. Thanks.
And for this, I gave up the Spurs game and the national championship game where Alabama is winning by 10 points now in the fourth quarter. I could have, 37-27, could have watched that instead. The nice thing about working at PNB as a lawyer is nobody checked with the law school or the bar association. You go to a law firm, they do background check. This jerk never checked. And, you know, I said, yeah, I'm a lawyer. They believe me. So, you know, so it was easy. Greg put this together tonight, I think was primarily in charge. I didn't do it alone. And apparently Diane did a lot of work, and I understand there was a lunch here last Friday where you worked out all the hors d'oeuvres that were good. So you did a great job on that one. It's true that Greg and I have spent hundreds and hundreds of hours locked together, cheek to jowl, going over documents, and dealing with diversions, to the point that Jim and Mark would come in every now and then and say, please, can we have a break here? Can we get in here somehow? And thankfully, Greg said yes. What Jeff and Lonnie forgot to tell you about the night that Jeff tried to lead us down the hill, and every time Jeff said go that way, Lonnie went that way, was that the restaurant sucked, and we never should have gone there in the first place. But, you know,
Lonnie made us go.
Exactly. For days we'd heard about how wonderful this restaurant was. It was okay. But
New chef.
who knew? Ben, I don't have a recollection. Jessica, I just want you to know that I don't recall.
It's called the Boob Fairy.
What's that?
The Boob Fairy?
Yeah, well, that's the Robin Williams show. The Boob Fairy visited you. That did not talk about shape, flavor, anything about So, you know, I don't want to, it's just a size issue. Bob and Jim are ones that come into the office and lay on fantastic topics to get into, talk about diversion. Yes, I can be diverted occasionally, and can also divert others. But Bob and Jim come up with good topics to take a good diversion on, and it is fascinating. It's fascinating until you see Ben and Jake and Ben, start to nod off and their heads hit the table and there's blood everywhere. Kristen, I don't remember Kristen. I don't remember. I gotta check with Pop.
You don't remember Kristen at all?
I think we need a new IT person. Now, for those of you who haven't sat through a development meeting chaired by Mark, it can take a 20-minute meeting and turn it into 3 hours. You gotta check on the web every now and then, but I don't remember those websites. And Mark and I do have, our politics have indeed come together. It was just, I think yesterday that Attila called and said that Mark is much too liberal for him these days. But it does create a lot. There's an interesting aspect to what young Ben said here today, and that is that growing up in Detroit, that's bad enough, you don't wish that on anybody, but growing up in Detroit at a time that I grew up here, I didn't know Ben that well. Ben was the nephew in Detroit. But since his 6.5-week internship has now hit about 250 weeks, what it's done is to make him part of our family in all respects, and it's just wonderful. It's a shame it has to be him, but we are limited in that. I tried to take notes of Justin Bieber's roast, but I guess I had to turn on the TV first, but I understand that was a good one. The one thing about PMB is, it's funny, the word mentor didn't come up till I think Jim read Jake's comment. And I have been surrounded by my mentors, Bob, Jeff, Mark, Jim, Greg, these people, Beth, these people are mentors in how they ran their business, how they ran their lives, how they ran their families, and how they behaved in all respects. That's been a marvelous thing for me. And you talk about role models. It's really how you should live your life. And Beth and I talk about this not infrequently, about the PMB way. And it's not a fun day when your doctor calls you and tells you you have stage 4 cancer, and there's no way to come out of this on the plus side. Jim will tell you the story about Bob Davison, and I've only heard that about 6 times, but keep telling me. But my family, my wife, my family at home, my family at work, really helps me deal with this. And coming to work is actually a good thing. Tomorrow I'll probably spend the day in bed, but that's, other than that, the concept of coming to the office, of getting out of the car and walking in the door is a very positive, very uplifting thing to do because of the people that I live with and work with there. And that's all you. So the disrespect that was expressed here tonight, I want to say is fully reciprocated. The respect and love is more than fully reciprocated. I am very fortunate. And well, I'm not the luckiest guy on the face of the earth, but maybe Lou Gehrig said that, right? Or at least the actor did. But it is true. I am very, very lucky to have you all in my life and to work with you. So thank you for tonight. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening to me. And also for being polite to the other speakers. That was kind of nice. Even though I didn't want to be.